It started as a normal Saturday afternoon, the kind of day when the sun blazes over Haiti's cracked highways, and life seems to move in slow, sleepy rhythms. The air shimmered with heat as a white minibus rolled down the dusty road that cut through the rural town of Gontier, just outside Port-au-Prince. Inside, 17 people, families, missionaries, and children, chatted softly. They had spent the morning visiting an orphanage in Croix des Bouquets, bringing food, medicine, and prayers to children who had none. The driver hummed a hymn. The children pressed their faces to the windows, watching goats scatter by the roadside. To them, it was just another peaceful day of doing good. But behind the tall weeds and abandoned cars lining the road, danger was waiting. Silent, patient, and armed. In that moment, none of them knew that a man named Wilson Lanmo Sanju Joseph, the ruthless leader of 400 Mawozo, had been following their route for days.
His orders were clear. Intercept the Americans, seize them alive, and demand the kind of ransom that would shake the world. At exactly 2:20 p.m., the sound of engines roared behind them. A black pickup truck cut across the road, blocking their path. Then came the screams. "Get out! Hands up!" Gunfire split the air. The minibus lurched to a stop. Within seconds, the serene afternoon turned into an ambush of chaos and terror. For the next 60 days, these 17 lives would hang by a thread, hidden deep in the Haitian jungle, hunted by the world's eyes, and bargained for like currency. It could happen to anyone, even in daylight. And no one, not the victims, not the kidnappers, not even the FBI, could have imagined how far this story would reach. October 16th, 2021. It was a blistering Saturday afternoon in Gontier, a small town on the outskirts of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The country was already teetering on the edge of collapse. Its president had been assassinated just 3 months earlier, and gangs now ruled over the capital like warlords. That day, a white minibus belonging to the Christian Aid Ministries carried 17 people along National Route 8, the highway linking the Haitian capital to the Dominican Republic. Inside were 16 Americans and 1 Canadian, missionaries on a humanitarian mission. Among them were 5 children, the youngest an 8-month-old baby. They had spent the morning visiting an orphanage, singing songs, handing out food, and sharing faith with the local children. They never made it home. As the bus rolled past a stretch of cracked asphalt surrounded by sugarcane fields, armed men appeared out of nowhere. Witnesses later said they moved like a unit. Black pickup trucks cutting across the road, guns raised, shouting orders in Haitian Creole.
Within minutes, the van was surrounded by members of the 400 Mawozo gang, a group infamous for kidnapping locals, extorting businesses, and terrorizing the countryside. The gang's leader, Wilson Lanmo Sanjo Joseph, had handpicked this operation. He wasn't just after quick cash. He wanted to make a statement to the world that Haiti's gangs now held more power than its government. The missionaries were dragged out, forced into waiting trucks, and driven toward the gang's stronghold in Croix des Bouquets, a sprawling district long abandoned by police control. Later that day, a chilling message reached the outside world. "We have your people. $1 million for each of them. $17 million demanded from a group of volunteers who had come to feed children." For many in Haiti, it was the moment when hope itself seemed to be held hostage. The road between Croix des Bouquets and Gontier was supposed to be safe, or at least safer than the inner city. That's what the missionaries were told before leaving the orphanage that Saturday. The sun was still high when their white minibus rattled through the narrow road, its windows rolled down to let in the breeze. A few miles behind them, two black pickup trucks followed at a steady distance. Inside were armed men of the 400 Mawozo, their faces hidden behind masks, fingers resting on AK-47 triggers. They had been watching the group since morning. A lookout had radioed Joseph's command post. "Blanyo uptunen, the foreigners are returning." At 2:20 p.m., Joseph gave the order. The first truck accelerated, cutting sharply across the minibus's lane. Tires screeched against asphalt. The bus swerved but couldn't escape. The second truck blocked the rear, trapping them in. "Get out! Hands up!" someone screamed in rough English. The driver, a local Haitian man named Leon, tried to plead. "Please, we are missionaries, not—" A gunshot exploded into the air, silencing him. Chaos erupted.
The side door was yanked open. Masked men stormed inside. One of the children began crying. An American woman wrapped her arms around the baby, whispering, "It's okay, it's okay," though she didn't believe it. In less than 5 minutes, the scene was over. The bus stood abandoned in the middle of the road, its windshield shattered, luggage scattered in the dirt. Locals who approached later found only the driver's phone, smashed and covered in dust. A witness, a roadside vendor named Claudine, told police she saw about 10 men, heavily armed, dragging the foreigners into 2 pickup trucks before speeding toward the mountains east of Croix-des-Bouquets. That detail, the direction of escape, would become the first crucial lead in the investigation. Within hours, word reached Port-au-Prince, then Washington, D.C. The U.S. Embassy confirmed. 16 Americans and 1 Canadian were missing. The FBI's International Kidnapping Response Team was immediately activated.
As night fell over Gontier, the abandoned minibus still sat on the road, its engine cold, the doors hanging open, a silent monument to how quickly peace could shatter. No one knew where the hostages had been taken, but deep in the jungle, among the rusted tin shacks of Croix-des-Bouquets, they were already being divided, blindfolded, and locked away. And for 400 Mawozo, the game had just begun. Night fell fast in the Haitian countryside. By the time the gang's trucks left the main road, darkness had swallowed the jungle. The dirt paths twisted through sugarcane and palm trees, leading to a cluster of tin shacks hidden deep in Croix-des-Bouquets, the stronghold of 400 Mawozo. Inside one of those shacks, 17 terrified captives sat on the floor, wrists tied, blindfolds pulled tight. The air was thick with sweat and the stench of diesel. Outside, men with rifles patrolled, laughing, drinking, firing warning shots into the sky. Hours passed before the blindfolds came off.
The leader, a tall man in black jeans and a white shirt, stepped in. His eyes were cold, his smile colder.
"I am Lanmo Sanju," he said. "Death comes suddenly. If your people love you, they will pay." He walked down the line, inspecting each face as if counting livestock. When he reached the youngest child, the 8-month-old baby in her mother's arms, he paused. "Even this one," he said in Creole, $1 million each. The captives were moved between shacks every few days to avoid police drones. They slept on dirt floors, ate scraps of rice, and drank water from rusted cans. Every night, gunfire echoed in the distance, sometimes near, sometimes far, but never absent. Despite the terror, they held on to faith. The group prayed in whispers, using the walls to muffle their voices. One of the men, an older missionary named Ronald, began marking days by scratching lines into a wooden beam. Meanwhile, one of the captives, a woman named Lisa, who had studied Haitian Creole, listened carefully. She noted the distinct voice of one guard, his accent from the cul-de-sac valley region, and a peculiar word he used when talking on the phone. Depot. That word would later become vital. The FBI analysts, listening to intercepted gang communications, would match the same slang to one of Wilson Joseph's top lieutenants, a man known as Tafredo. But for now, the hostages knew nothing of rescue. One night, Lisa whispered, "They'll kill us if the money doesn't come." Ronald looked at her, voice calm despite the fear. "No," he said softly. "We'll outlast them." Outside, rain began to fall, heavy, relentless. The guards cursed and ran for cover. Inside the shack, 17 strangers bowed their heads, praying not for ransom, but for survival. And miles away, the FBI task force landed in Port-au-Prince, stepping into a country ruled not by law, but by fear. The race to find them had begun. By the third day, the world knew. Headlines across CNN, BBC, and the New York Times flashed the same words: 16 Americans kidnapped in Haiti. In Port-au-Prince, FBI agents arrived under tight security. They set up a temporary command post inside the heavily guarded U.S. Embassy, joined by the Haitian National Police, PNH, and a small group of local intelligence officers. Their mission? Find the hostages before the ransom deadline turned deadly. But the odds were brutal. Haiti's government was fractured, its police underpaid and outgunned. Even the roads to Croix-des-Bouquets were controlled by gangs. The FBI couldn't move freely. Every operation required local cooperation, and every whisper risked betrayal. On the fourth day, the kidnappers made contact. A distorted male voice spoke over an encrypted phone line. $17 million US. $1 million for each head. You have 1 week. The line went dead. The negotiators, specialists from the FBI's Crisis Response Unit, tried to stall. They offered medical aid, proof of life, smaller payments. But Wilson Lanmo Joseph was no fool. He recorded a video message and released it online, standing before a line of armed men. "If I don't get what I ask for," he declared in Creole, "I will put bullets in their heads." The video went viral. The world watched in horror. Back in the jungle, the hostages were weakening. Food ran out, disease spread. The baby developed a fever. Guards grew restless, paranoid. Some began arguing over whether to kill a hostage to prove their seriousness. Then, a glimmer of hope. Through covert surveillance, FBI tech analysts picked up a cell signal bouncing off a rural tower near Cul-de-sac Valley. It matched the same number heard during intercepted phone calls mentioning the word depot. They traced it to a warehouse believed to store vehicles and weapons for 400 Mawozo. A plan formed. A joint raid with Haitian police. But before they could act, the gang struck again, kidnapping 2 local truck drivers near the same road. It was a message. "We're watching you." Under pressure from Washington, negotiators tried a new tactic: psychological manipulation. They sent word through intermediaries offering respect and recognition instead of confrontation. To everyone's shock, 2 hostages were released a few days later, a mother and her child, both dehydrated but alive. The release wasn't an act of mercy, it was strategy. Joseph wanted to show he controlled life and death. Inside the embassy, an FBI negotiator whispered, "He's toying with us. He wants to be seen, feared, remembered. And he would get exactly that. Because soon, one small mistake from his men, a phone left on too long, a single ping on a cell tower, would begin to unravel his empire. It came down to a single mistake. One of the gang's lieutenants, Tyfredo, the same man whose voice Lisa had remembered, forgot to remove the SIM card from a burner phone after a call to a contact in the Dominican Republic. The signal lasted just 47 seconds, but it was enough. FBI analysts at the Port-au-Prince Command Center traced the ping to a cluster of coordinates near Gros Morne, on the edge of the Croix de Bouquet jungle. Drone footage revealed faint lights in the darkness, tin roofs, smoke trails, armed men moving at night. "This is it," one agent said. They had found the camp. At dawn, a joint task force, 20 Haitian police officers and 4 FBI advisors moved in. The jungle came alive with gunfire. AK-47s roared, machetes clanged against metal. The officers pushed forward, their boots sinking into mud, their hearts hammering under the weight of both fear and duty. Inside one of the shacks, the hostages heard it. Distant, staccato bursts of gunfire. "Are they coming for us?" someone whispered. Ronald, the older missionary, gripped the makeshift cross he had carved from a piece of wood. "If it's God's will," he said quietly, "then yes." As bullets tore through the camp, chaos erupted. The kidnappers scattered. In the confusion, 3 hostages managed to slip out, crawling under a hole in the corrugated wall and fleeing toward the tree line. They followed the sound of the river, just as Ronald had memorized during nights of silent prayer. By sunrise, the escapees reached a dirt road and waved down a passing farmer, who drove them, trembling, barefoot and crying, to the nearest police checkpoint. The news hit the embassy like lightning. 3 hostages escaped alive. Meanwhile, at the raid site, agents seized a laptop and multiple phones. The data contained voice recordings, ransom messages, and money transfer receipts linking Wilson Joseph directly to the kidnappings. And more. Among the digital files was something far bigger. Evidence of a transnational network moving ransom money through fake charities and shell companies in the Dominican Republic, Panama, and the U.S. 400 Mawozo wasn't just a street gang. It was a small empire built on fear, corruption, and blood money. Days later, in a separate operation, Wilson Lanmo Sanju Joseph was finally cornered near the border. When officers surrounded his convoy, he laughed, a sharp, dry laugh that echoed through the hills. "You think you caught me?" he shouted. "There are hundreds more." He was wrong, because with him in custody, his empire began to crumble. His lieutenants turned on each other, revealing stash houses, bribed police, and hidden bank accounts. By December, all 17 hostages were free. Some were released, others rescued. None would ever be the same. And in the jungles of Haiti, the name 400 Mawozo, once whispered in fear, became a symbol of how quickly power built on terror can fall apart. When Wilson Lanmo Sanju Joseph was finally taken into custody, he didn't resist. He sat calmly in the back of the armored vehicle, hands cuffed, eyes scanning the horizon. "You think I'm finished?" he told one of the Haitian officers beside him. "There will always be another me." But this time, the world was watching. The arrest came after weeks of coordinated raids led by the FBI, the Haitian National Police, and Interpol.
Dozens of gang members were captured, weapons seized, and safe houses dismantled. Agents uncovered hard drives filled with ransom negotiations, lists of previous victims, and photographs documenting years of kidnappings. Among the evidence, one phone stood out: Joseph's personal device.
Inside were recordings of voice messages where he demanded ransoms, laughed about the hostages' suffering, and even discussed bribes with local politicians. The audio was damning. In early 2022, Joseph was extradited to the United States under charges of kidnapping U.S. citizens abroad, conspiracy, and terroristic acts against foreign nationals. It was one of the most significant international criminal prosecutions involving Haiti in decades. The trial began in October 2025 at a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. The courtroom was silent as the jury entered. Behind bulletproof glass, Joseph stood tall, wearing a dark suit, his face expressionless. Across the room sat the survivors, now forever linked by trauma. The youngest child, once an infant, slept quietly in her mother's arms. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence: intercepted calls, bank transfers, drone footage, and testimony from former gang members who had turned witnesses in exchange for protection. One by one, they revealed the machinery of a criminal empire, from ransom laundering networks in the Dominican Republic to arms deals flowing in from South America. The defense tried to argue Joseph's innocence, claiming he was a symbol, not the hand that pulled the trigger. But when the FBI played an audio file, Joseph's own voice saying, "If they don't pay, I'll bury them in the cane fields," the courtroom froze. It took the jury less than 3 hours to reach a verdict: guilty on all counts. The judge, her voice steady but fierce, delivered the sentence. For crimes of violence, terror, and human suffering beyond comprehension, this court sentences you, Wilson Joseph, to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In the gallery, quiet sobs broke the silence. Some cried out of relief, others from exhaustion. Outside, reporters surrounded the steps of the courthouse. The FBI director gave a brief statement. Justice does not erase trauma, but it restores balance. The victims of 400 Mawozo are free, and their captor will never walk free again. Back in Haiti, the fall of 400 Mawozo sent ripples through the underworld. Rival gangs fractured, their leaders either dead or in hiding. For the first time in years, the people of Croix de Bouquet slept through the night without gunfire. And yet, amid the victory, the scars remained. Many of the freed hostages still flinched at loud noises. Some left Haiti forever. Others returned, quietly, to rebuild what fear had tried to destroy. Justice had been served. But peace in Haiti was still a fragile dream. In the months following the trial, Haiti returned to its uneasy rhythm, a nation scarred but breathing. The headlines faded, but the echoes of the 400 Mawozo case lingered like smoke over the hills of Croix de Bouquet. For the survivors, freedom came with silence. They spoke rarely of their time in captivity, not because they had forgotten, but because remembering felt like reopening a wound that refused to heal. Some returned to missionary work in safer regions. Others stayed home, raising awareness about the growing dangers of travel and humanitarian work in unstable nations. One of them, Ronald, the man who had led the group in prayer during captivity, later wrote in his testimony, "Faith kept us alive." But it was not faith alone that saved us. It was the courage of people who refused to give up, who fought for strangers as if they were their own. His words became a quiet anthem
for resilience. The 400 Mawozo case changed how the world saw Haiti, not just as a place of suffering, but as a mirror reflecting what happens when corruption, poverty, and violence grow unchecked. It also reshaped international policy. The U.S.
increased travel restrictions. Missionary organizations began requiring security briefings, and global task forces expanded their cooperation on transnational crime. Yet the deeper question remained: how could men like Wilson Joseph rise to such power? And how many more were still waiting in the shadows? The story of the 400 Mawozo kidnapping wasn't just about ransom or survival. It was about the thin line between faith and fear, hope and despair, order and chaos. It reminded the world that evil doesn't always come in the dark. Sometimes it waits in broad daylight, on a quiet road, beneath a blazing sun. So remember this story, not as a tale of tragedy, but as a warning, and a testament to the strength of those who endured it. Thank you for listening to Crimes That Shocked the World. Where are you listening from tonight? On your way to work? Or maybe at home, lights dimmed, coffee in hand? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment below. What part of this story struck you the most? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that uncover the darkest corners of our world. Because sometimes, knowing the truth is the only way to stay safe from it.